For a season, the storm raged. Questions, doubt, pressure, opposition. Every day brought a new challenge. Every step forward was met with resistance. Many turned back. Many chose the easier path. But some stood their ground. The builders, the believers, the warriors. While others watched the storm, they kept building. While others waited, they kept moving. While others doubted, they kept believing. They fought for an idea, a mission, a future worth creating. Not because it was easy, but because it mattered. The storm did not break them. The pressure did not stop them. The obstacles did not define them. They endured. They adapted. They overcame. And now, the clouds begin to part. The battlefield grows quiet. The dawn returns. Season 2 was the storm. Season 3 is the response. The storm was never the end. It was preparation. Season 3, Honest.Money, the expansion.
Hey, watch this.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Let's close out of that video and welcome you to I don't know, what's today? Sunday? A special Sunday night edition of your favorite thing in mind, Texitcoin, with your host, founder and fearless leader, Bobby Gray. Welcome. There's a lot of people here. There's 351 people here so far. I don't remember the last time we had a call this big and certainly not this exciting. So I don't have much on my agenda, just so you know. But I do have so much to share with you that a single day, an hour call or two is not in any way going to be close to enough time. So I was sitting there wrapping up my time with the SEC on Thursday in London, and I said, you know, we need another marathon week. We need to get together for like a while and bring everybody up to speed. Send out a rare email to everyone, invite them out for a call, and see who shows up, and just talk about everything that's going on. And it's going to take us a while. I don't want to rush through it because there's too much. And like I said in the email, it's all good stuff. So tonight kicks off our marathon week, and I think it'll go till Thursday. I know everyone's got better things to do on a Friday night than to sit down and listen to me at Story Hour. So I think we'll wrap up by Thursday evening. Thursday evening, we'll try to conclude the list of things, and I do have a list. We'll try to conclude the list of things that I've got for us to discuss. But we'll see how it goes. We might need more. If we need more, we'll take more. This is our time to use it any way we please. If you can't connect on the call, don't worry, because we will always record them. Oh my gosh, we should record these calls.
Recording in progress.
There we are. Welcome to Marathon Week with your host, founder and fearless leader of Texitcoin, Bobby Gray. Thanks so much for joining. Redoing our introduction because I forgot to record. I told everybody I would record, and of course we are recording now. So thanks for being here, everyone. Thanks for spending your Sunday evening with me. Hopefully you had a great weekend. It's been stormy in Texas. The heavens have opened up, bringing lots of moisture and rain to some very parched areas, from what I understand, which is good, but probably a little overwhelming right now. But this conversation is not about the weather. Our conversation tonight is to bring you up to speed on what happened this past Thursday in London, England, with our friends over at the SEC. And of course, it's going to take a long time for us to get to that part in the conversation because we haven't talked in a long time. And I want to tell you all about Thursday. I'm going to be a little bit careful because there are a thing. There is a thing, or there are a few things that my attorneys have asked me to keep private and confidential, and I do a really bad job of that. I'm Mr. Full Disclosure, full transparency here. It hasn't bit me in the butt just yet, but they say loose lips sink ships, so I'll try to be a little bit careful. Um, but I want to share all of that with you, and I want to bring you up to speed on how we got there, how we got to Thursday, how Thursday happened. And it'll take us a little while, so sit down, get comfortable, buckle up, grab a drink or a bowl of popcorn or something, because we got some ground to cover first. But it's been an amazing year. I stop every once in a while and I reflect on the fact that it is June 2026. And I scroll back through the photos on my phone to remember where we were June of 2025. And June of 2025, I don't think that I had even crashed the McLaren at that point. I mean, I went from like a crashed supercar right after July 4th to the most amazing few months of my life, and probably a lot of other people's lives as well, to, oh man, everything's upside down. This has all happened inside of 1 year. Where were we? June 15th. June 15th of last year. What was going on June 15th? We were having a conversation this morning. I say this morning, it was Sunday morning, Texas time. Going through kind of like what's hot, who's hot, all that stuff. And some names came up, and I said, look, guys, let's hold off on judgments and deciding if bridges are burned with anybody until we get our act together, until we get to a spot where we're really happy with our systems and our processes and our support and all of that stuff. And we start reaching out to people and saying, hey, it's been a long year, but here's what's next. Let's go. And, in June of 2025, we haven't connected with Angelo, Brig, so many great people whose names I don't even know and can't even remember sometimes. But all of this has happened within the last year. And so it feels like a decade. But in reality, it's been less than a year since we really saw this project take off, become something absolutely incredible, and then walk right into a brick wall. Not walk, but run or fly into a brick wall. And so it's been an interesting year, and it's been a great year, and it's been a terrible year. All of those things in one thing is really hard to imagine. But I do want us to pause for a moment and reflect on the fact that it has only been this little short sliver of time. I mean, I started this thing in January of 2024. So I'd say week 115, or I think we're on week 116 now. And so that's a lot of time. But to think that, we started slow and then all of a sudden it picked up a little bit of steam and then all of a sudden it went parabolic, that sliver of time was, just inside of the last year. Anyway, I'm going to stop beating the last year dead horse at this point. But the point is that let's put it in perspective. Let's stop and reflect on how far we've come and how far we have yet to go. Because we set out to do something really big and amazing and important, and we accomplished some of our major goals. Not all of them, of course, not all of them, but we did so much with so little, so fast. And so for us to take, a 3-4 month pause in the midst of this excitement to put a spotlight on us, to clean up some loose ends, to follow through on promises, I don't think in the grand scheme of things that we'll look back and be like, well, we've had this cooling off period of 4 months it took us to get our act together. I don't think when we look back on this thing 5 years from now, we're going to even notice this short little, period in the middle of all the excitement. But anyway, so let's talk about not the last year, but the last 6 months, because our problems with, regulators really kicked off February 11th. That was the day that we got our cease and desist from the state of Texas. It's also the day, in fact, the first thing that happened that day was an email from the SEC. And the email from the SEC was private. It wasn't a public communication. It was a private communication. And so both of these things happen on the same day. And I looked at it and I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to share, this information with the community. There's no way we can keep this quiet. I mean, this is a tough time for us. Our market's already been struggling, but let's take these things on one at a time. Let's deal with the TSSB thing first. That's loud. That's, getting publicity. And then let's go back and let's, be upfront with our community later about this SEC thing. And so both of those things happen on February 11. And that was the day that, really, really kicked off the chapter that we're in right now. I mean, immediately, some staff was dismissed from the office. We made some really important changes quickly to be able to give ourselves, the most headroom here to deal with the challenge. But that was February 11th. But our problems started before that. And if you've been around for a while, you know that, the conversation really changed for us in December. It went from like, look what we did, pointing at the charts, path to 16, topping out the market in September, to this kind of slow week by week decrease in our sales, week by week decrease in the price of TXC on the open market, to December, where I said, we've got a problem. We've got a problem. And the sooner we deal with this problem, the sooner we can identify what the problem is, find solutions, and start, fixing those things and moving forward. And so, we've been dealing with these challenges for a while now. And it's very humbling, because for a long time we thought that this rocket ship of ours was quite unstoppable. And boy, did we learn some tough and hard lessons along the way. So getting arrogance out of the way and letting our heads not get too big and all that stuff, we went through these challenges. And so our problems started long before February 11th. I don't know if they started in September. I don't know if they started in October. I don't know if they started at the end of December, when we did our marathon call, where we went through everything top to bottom. It's hard to put an exact finger on it until it's over, because it's not over. It's hard to say, well, that was the thing that did us in. When you're recovering and when you're back on your way up, you can call the bottom. You can say, well, that was the time we bottomed out at 9 cents or 8 cents or 2 cents or 0.000047 cents, whatever it is. We can say there's the bottom of, the market. And now we're confident that it's going back in the other direction. So we don't know exactly when the problem started. We don't know exactly when the bottom was or is, but we know that we had some contributing challenges that took us into 2026. And so when we hit February 11th with the TSSB cease and desist, my initial thought was really two things. One is, well, this must be the end. Scary. Nothing like that has ever happened to me before. It's a bit of a cool thing, because you're big now. You're so big that state regulators and the SEC knows about you. And I've seen evidence files now that are stamped, July 2025 and August of 2025. So they've been watching for a while, and it's hard to ignore us. I mean, we're advertising in every major airport in the US except for New York and Atlanta. And maybe Chicago. I don't know what you'd consider a major airport, but a lot of the big ones. So it's hard to ignore us. It's not like we're not on the radar. And so, the first thought was, wow, this has never happened before. It's kind of exciting and it's very scary, and this might be the end. And then the other part of me was almost a little bit grateful, just for a little bit of a moment. It's not because I want bad things to happen to me or anybody else, but I knew that something big had to happen in order for us to fully embrace our challenges. And when you spend 99% of your day just trying to run the business, it leaves you very little time left over for life, breathing, exercise, family, all the things that we're here for and supposed to care more about than this business money thing. Now, I've made a commitment to our project and I'm going to see that through. But the point is that, like, if you're spending all day running the business and putting out fires, it's really tough to step back, see the forest, look at the big picture, whatever the analogy is, whatever the metaphor is. It's hard to do those things. You're so overwhelmed with the challenge that you have a difficult time finding the energy to run the business, to guide the ship. And so when February 11th happened, when the TSSB action happened, I was like, oh, all right, maybe this gives us a bit of a chance to breathe for a minute, hit the pause button, freeze everything. It's going to be disappointing for a lot of people, very, very painful. I mean, when I first started this thing, I was the only guy that did it full time. And then hundreds and hundreds of people were doing it full time. And so I knew it was going to be extremely painful. I wasn't happy about that part, but I was really happy about the opportunity that we were going to have to pause, to take a step back, to look at things from the 50,000 foot view and really identify what's going on here, what's at the heart of this challenge that's contributing to this downward trend that we have right now, number one. And number two, like, we're going to need some time to clean up loose ends. I mean, we've got a lot going on. We've got all these irons in the fire. We've been talking about phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. We haven't made much progress on those things because we're too busy putting fires out all day long. And now we've got an opportunity to pause for a minute and get some of these things done. And so, I looked at it as a double-edged sword when this went down on February 11th. And so, looking back, I am kind of happy and grateful about, the order of events, the order of operations here, because, you don't know until later why things happen. I do believe that everything that's supposed to happen always does happen. And, again, it's painful going through these things, and it takes time and courage to be able to look back and be like, I'm glad that happened. I'm glad that we went through that. It was like breaking a bone. It grows back stronger. It, was a cleansing thing. It helped us, figure out a bunch of stuff. And we'll get into some of those things this week. But the first thing that I did when that went down was I started looking for counsel. And that's a really important thing because I was in way over my head. And just to, pause for a second and look at the background of this issue, like, we knew that this day was going to come. We knew going into this project that at some point, somewhere, sometime, someday, this thing was going to be in the spotlight of the regulators, and we were going to have to deal with this question that everyone was asking of, is it a security? And so when that day came, I'm a little embarrassed to say that we were caught flat-footed. And that was part of the strategy. Part of the strategy was, look, we've never talked to an attorney about this. We don't know what the answer is. We think we're doing the right thing because of A, B, C, D, and E. We've looked at all of these other cases. We don't have any of those elements. And so we think we're okay. Not sure, but we think. Because we think it, we feel good enough to move forward. We feel good enough to invite friends and family to participate, but we don't know. And so not only didn't know, but we didn't know who we would call if the day ever came up that we were going to be, put in the spotlight and have to figure out the answer to that question. And so, the first thing we set out to do, was comply with the TSSB's cease and desist. And there were 4 things on there. don't do A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, or A, B, C, and D, 4 things. And so that was number 1. And then once we were through that, we set out to find counsel. And I got very, very lucky because I did a whole bunch of research into this stuff, came across Quinn Emanuel. And Quinn Emanuel is the top dog in the space. They're also the most expensive. But these are the guys with firsthand experience, not just in these matters, but in winning with these things. We talked to a bunch of different attorneys. Well, yeah, we can look for settlement here. Yeah, we should probably, just, kind of shut down and blah, blah, blah. No, I want to talk to somebody who's ready to win. And so we connected with Quinn Emanuel. And Quinn Emanuel was like, we got you. Don't worry about it. Ride or die. Let's go. And that doesn't mean that they looked at our case and thought it was a slam dunk. It's just they looked at the case and they looked at the information that they had access to, and they were confident that they had a winning chance. They don't take on cases that are losers. They don't take on cases that don't appeal to them, don't seem like good opportunities for them to flex their muscles, use their experience, and come out victorious on the other side. I mean, they don't want that. I've asked them to take a look at a couple other things, and they're not interested in them because it would, they need things that are going to positively affect their reputation. They said, how did you find us? Well, I looked at who won this case and that case and that case. Exactly. We want cases that we're going to win, and that helps us, develop our reputation. And so we connected with Quinn Emanuel, and they always pointed out that our biggest problem was the SEC. And I said, well, this TSSB thing is kind of a big deal, right? We've got the cease and desist, and they said, yeah, but the SEC is kind of a bigger a bigger dragon out there. You got Texas and New York and California. They're definitely the largest of the state regulators, and they're the most aggressive when it comes to these types of things. But the SEC is really what you need to stay focused on the most. And they said, right behind that, or maybe right there with that, is the other most important thing, which is running your business. And I said, well, that's a really important thing to me too. But what should I change to avoid similar challenges in the next state over? We do a lot of marketing in Florida, and there's a big group in California and Colorado. Like, I don't want more ceases and desists. What do I have to change in order to avoid this? And he's like, I don't really know. I don't see what you're doing wrong now. Give me some time to look into it, and we'll talk about that later. So anyway, so very quickly after the February 11th thing went down, we connected with Quinn Emanuel. We got them all the information, and we paid a pretty substantial retainer. And we've topped up that retainer many times since February 11th, or since February. Got this cup in Istanbul. I'll tell you about that in a moment. So I'm not going to go through the entire timeline with you. I'm going to show you instead the Texitcoin website. And a moment ago, I said, look, this is our perspective now on what's been going on. We look back at it 4 months and 4 days later, and we say, can we find the good in it? It's very painful, traumatic, but can we at least find a little bit of good in what happened? And the answer is we sure can. And part of that good is the time and the bandwidth that was freed up for me to finally work on our website. And we're not going to go through all the tech today. That's tomorrow's call. But I want you to take a quick look. If you haven't seen the Texitcoin website in a while, please check it out, because there is so much information here. There is such a vast improvement between the website that we had 3 months ago and the website that we have today. I mean, it is not night and day. It is a more severe of an increase in quality than that. I don't even know what the metaphor would be that would be more stark of a contrast than night and day. But that's what our website is. And there's a couple things on here that I'm going to point out as we dive into the story. Maybe I'll come back to them. But in the bottom right-hand corner is a little starburst here with TSSB legal updates. And so I chronologically have put everything that's been happening with the Texas State Security Board and our case here on this website so that you and anyone else, can check it out. And, look, it's our perspective on it. Every filing, every hearing date, every twist laid out in plain English in our words. It's not everything. It's some attorney-client privilege there. One of the things that we haven't shared with you is the TSSB's evidence file against us, Texitcoin, Bobby Gray, Blockchain Mint, MineTXC. But it's all of the filings with our kind of perspective on it, and it goes all the way back to February 11th. And so if you want the full details, they are here on this page. If there's anything missing, please let me know. But it's a pretty impressive page. It's got links to all of it because, this stuff is important, not just the dates and the headlines and our perspective, but also the original underlying file that you can then click on and read for yourself and get your own take on what's going on. And so this is where we've put all this information so that you and anyone else that's evaluating our project can go and take a look and see for yourself what's going on and how we're dealing with it. And so, so that's where we started this process back in February. A little bit scared, a little bit confused. What do we do? We're trying to do something great for the state of Texas, and they're coming after us. And our initial reaction was confusion. Our follow-up reaction was fear. Our follow-up reaction after that was like, well, this is a rite of passage. Every crypto that ends up getting big and successful has to go through this process. You got to get into the microscope. They got to take a close look at, your T's and your I's and make sure they're all dotted and crossed the right way. So we justified it a lot of different ways. But as information started to come in over time, we've been able to refine that perspective and get a lot more clarity on it. And the clarity is actually, it's eye-opening. You're going to hear me say some weird stuff in like, I don't know, the next 20, 30 minutes. Because I'm not going to, let me just hold off on jumping to conclusions here, but you're going to hear me talk about it from a different perspective. Back in the beginning, it was what's going on that they don't understand, blah, blah, blah. I understand it much better now. And I do think that they're wrong. I do think that they're doing their job. But I think that there's a lot more to this now than I understood back in the beginning. And so I'm sympathetic about some of these things more so than I was 4 months and 4 days ago when it was shock and confusion across the board. But anyway, so that's where we started. We handed off the file to Quinn Emanuel and we said, help. Because, we knew that the regulators would come at some point, but we didn't know what that would look like. A cease and desist, shut down, turn it off. Like, that's pretty heavy-handed. And they agreed with that as well. In fact, we still don't know what makes the state of Texas think that a cease and desist is the appropriate, kind of action for this. And the only thing that we can think of is like, well, every other time they did that in the past, whoever it was that they ceased and desisted, shut down, disappeared, rug pulled, exit scammed, and was gone. They never had to hear from him again. And so it's only every once in a while that somebody challenges it. Well, we challenged it, and we've got a great case, and we're very confident, much more so today than we were 4 months ago, in our potential outcome. It's not a coin flip. It's always a coin flip when you go in front of judges and go through these proceedings. But we've got a good case. We've got a very, very good case. And so that's going down August 17th to 20th. Now we're in June. And so now 2 months away. So the TSSB thing happened. They said, look, we'll give you a hearing inside of 10 days. Quinn Emanuel said, look, if you want us to lose, we'll go in there and lose for you within 10 days. At this point right now, it could be tomorrow. They've got all the evidence. They've got all their, they've been preparing for this for a while. We're brand new to it. If you want us to lose, we'll go lose tomorrow. No problem. I said, all right, let's waive the 10-day thing. Let's get the facts straight. Let's win. Because if we win big, and we set the record straight on a bunch of stuff, and we give ourselves an opportunity to move forward. If we win big in Texas, we probably clear the SEC thing and all the other potential problems out of the way as well. So let's win, even if it takes time and costs a lot of money. So that was the decision that we made back in February. We waived the 10-day. We've got our August 17th court date, and we won't even have an answer or a verdict on that until after that. It could take 2, 3, 4 weeks for us to get a verdict. So we've got some time still, but that's about 2 months away right now. But enough about the TSSB. Let's talk about the SEC. And so once we got the TSSB stuff, we responded, we requested a hearing, we submitted, the things that were required. All those things are outlined in the website that I just showed you a moment ago. Once we had all of that done, it was like, okay, now let's deal with our friends at the SEC. And they came heavy, and they came hard, and they came fast. And our attorney said, we've never seen them this aggressive with any other case of this kind before. I said, well, that's great. That's good. Another pat on our back there. Obviously, we're so big and so important that these guys are like coming out guns blazing, scorched earth with us. Subpoenas are flying. The team has got them. Rob got his, Tim got his, Jay got his, Chris got his, my wife, my father, my daughter. Man, subpoenas are flying. And I was like kind of impressed with their aggressive stance on this thing until I saw the bill. And I said, oh, okay. All right, this is going to get expensive. And so, we've been dealing with that for the last couple months. And I haven't shared a lot of SEC details with you, because first of all, there's not a lot that's on the record. We don't have formal communication with them. There's not a lawsuit from the SEC. It's just an investigation. And so this stuff is not really on the record. And a lot of it's, protected under attorney-client privilege. So I haven't been able to put the information out there because, I'm not sure what I'm allowed to share. But again, it's not a lawsuit. We haven't gotten a Wells notice from the SEC, which is them indicating that they're going to file a lawsuit, or they're interested in pursuing it for these reasons. Then we get to respond with, all the reasons why they're wrong. And then a decision is made if they're going to file a lawsuit. So before we get into that, I want to remind you and everybody else that this is not a criminal matter. And that's a really important distinction. There's civil and there's criminal. This is all civil. Now, we've asked about that. Is it going to get criminal? We don't want that to happen. I've never been a criminal. And that's actually not true. I got my FBI background check. And when I was 20, I had a fake ID. My fake ID got taken from me. And apparently that's on my FBI background report. So 26 years ago, when I had a fake ID, tampering with documents, government documents, is a criminal offense, and it's on my criminal record. So if you need to know about Bobby Gray, the criminal, just look back to the year 2000 when I had a fake ID when I was 20 years old and got busted for it. So there's that. I've always thought I wasn't a criminal. Here, come to find out, 26 years later, I was when I was a youngster. Anyway, so criminal and civil, two extremely different things. And we've asked, what's the deal? They said, look, we can't say that this thing would never become a criminal complaint. I mean, that's what they go fishing for. They're fishing for information. They want to find the details and determine whether or not this is something that they need to pack up and ship on over to the Department of Justice and let them handle it. That hasn't happened, and we don't expect it to happen for this reason, that reason, the other reason. And they wouldn't really do it this way anyway. If it was something that they were, confident or at least kind of confident, I was like, but isn't it really hard to get like an indictment? He's like, no. That's like, there's a joke about that. I can't remember what the joke is in the legal world, but the joke is that it's pretty easy to get an indictment. You go in front of a grand jury and it's like, I can't remember the joke. There's a joke there somewhere. But he's like, no, that's not hard at all. So the fact that there isn't an indictment and the fact that this isn't a criminal matter is actually kind of cool. And when I looked at all the guys that came before us and how they all had criminal complaints attached to them, all of them, I said, okay, all we got to do is do the right thing, not defraud people, and it won't be a criminal thing. Okay, so far so good. So just remember, everything we talk about, it's not criminal. Not in Texas, not with the SEC. It's really important distinction, guys. What we're talking about is a registration question, a question of law. And it's a highly technical question. And we'll get into the details about that in just a moment. But the point is, it's not criminal. It's never been criminal. And we don't expect it to be criminal because of what we did, how we did it, and all that we'll get into in a moment. But we didn't have much details. It's not on the record. There's no official lawsuit. It's just an investigation. It's a formal investigation. They tell you that they're investigating you. They send out the subpoenas. They get all your bank records. They go through as much stuff as they can get their hands on, and they start examining. AJ, can you lock that door for me, please? They start, doing the due diligence to figure out whether or not they want to proceed all the way to the point where it becomes a lawsuit. So investigation, Wells notice, response, lawsuit, maybe. We're not at the Wells notice point yet. We're still in the investigation phase. We're in the very early phase. It feels scary. It's incredibly expensive, but that's where we are today in terms of the SEC thing. It's an investigation. They've now done 3 depositions. They deposed Chris, they deposed Jay, and they deposed, well, I don't think they deposed me. We'll get into the technical details about that in a minute. But that's what happened last Thursday. And so as we start to collect this information, as this information and this feedback comes our way, we get to understand what's going on a lot more. If we had this conversation a week and a day ago, I would have had a different perspective on it than I have today. I don't remember when we last talked. When was it? Was it last Thursday? It wasn't last Thursday because I was traveling. I don't remember. But we haven't talked enough, that's for sure. And so when we as we go through this, and really it started with the depositions. As we go through these depositions, they're incredibly good learning experiences for us because you get to listen to the questions and find out what they really care about. And so Chris went through it first, I think, or is it Jay first? I think it was Jay first, and then Chris went through it second. And so we're getting the information back now, and we're looking at this and we're saying, okay, what do they really, really, really want to know? That's of course what we're going to talk about tonight. And we have that now. And that's really, really good because with clarity, we're able to make important decisions. We're able to make important changes, and we're able to have less ignorance and fear. I put in my last email, the FUD. FUD is a crypto term for fear, uncertainty, and doubt. It's one of those like HODL things, hold on for dear life. Like we get these terms. I would say that I'm a little embarrassed about how much I've embraced the ecosystem word. It was one of those words I despised and swore I would never use. I also swore that we would never have a white paper, but YOLO, times change. And so, we're developing this ecosystem. We use that word now, and we use words like HODL, and we use words like FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. But it's a natural thing. So don't feel too bad if you've been concerned or, if you've been unsure or you've questioned our future. the reason we're getting together this week is because I want to share all the stuff that I know with you so that you can begin to eliminate the FUD from your life. For me, it's almost gone. Not entirely gone, almost gone. And that's not to say that we won. It's not to say that we crushed our enemies and they can never affect us ever again. It's to say that as we get more information, I feel much better about our future. And that's good. That's important. And again, I'll share why I feel that with you. And hopefully you can make your own determination of the same. And if that, in fact, motivates you to continue cheering for us or to put that sticker back on the side of your car or to share our story with a friend or whatever that is, it's all good. But the point is that at bare minimum, I want you to go to sleep at night feeling a little bit better about what is coming our way. I know a lot of people got very excited about this thing. September, October last year, we were looking at it. We had new tabs open on our browser about the yachts and the mansions and the private jets. And maybe it was just paying off the credit card bills or whatever for you. But we got excited. And I want you to find that excitement again. Put it kind of on simmer. We're not there yet. We still have work to do. We still have money to spend. It's a process, but I want to share again what I know so that you can engage that and consider joining me there back in the optimism category. So we've got more information now. And that's really at the heart of what I want to share with you tonight. We don't have to stretch this call on for hours and hours and hours. I'll get to the point, and then we can wrap up our Sunday evening with questions and go from there. Get excited about Monday evening. So part of the thing that's been extremely confusing about this process is that the SEC in March released a new thing. And we're going to scroll through it here to March 17, 2026. Click on this new tab. Hopefully you can see this new tab open. Do you see? Can you give me a thumbs up or something if we see the page of text? Can't see my thumbs ups. Thumbs up? Thumbs up? I don't know. Yes, I'm seeing raised hands. Thank you. Okay. So the SEC put this document out in March. And we looked at this, a little more than a month after our ordeal began, and we said, okay, does that mean it's over? I mean, they kind of went through some really important things in this. And the two important things are kind of here on page 14, where they specifically go through and write that these things are digital commodities, and they list examples: Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, and for some reasons unknown, they also include XRP in this list. And that's incredibly strange because XRP is different than all of those things. XRP is completely pre-mined. It's not mineable. You can't light up an XRP node. It's completely centrally controlled. Brad Garlinghouse runs the whole show. He makes the decisions. Like, it's not really on that list of decentralized, mineable peer-to-peer coins. Now, that list is made up of a bunch of things, and they're not all exactly the same. But some of them are similar. Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, Doge. Those are similar. Shiba Inu is not. That's a token. That's a token that runs on Ethereum. Like, that doesn't really belong in that digital commodity list. And XRP absolutely does not belong in that list. So very strange that they put that pairing together on this, first section of their document. But it's a huge win for us, because I've always said that Texitcoin is like if Litecoin and XRP had a baby, and that baby was born in Texas. There's one part about this that I don't like, and they call them digital commodities. And I won't tell you why I don't like that. I don't like it. I'll tell you that the reason behind me not liking it is the same thing that I testified about back in US Congress in 2012. Back then, the government was talking about legalizing gold and silver. And I said, no. Don't legalize gold and silver. Just leave it alone. Just pretend like it doesn't exist, because we don't want the government getting involved in gold and silver. You don't want to fill out your tax form at the end of the year and have to report how much gold and silver you hold. Like, just leave them alone. They're just property. They're just property. Don't classify them as a digital commodity. Why? Because commodities are highly regulated. CFTC regulates commodities, right? CFTC, commodities. CFTC, Commodities Futures Trading Commission. So as soon as you call these things commodities, now all of a sudden you got a new regulator. Welcome. It's not a currency, it's a commodity. I've always said that crypto is a currency. Now, currencies have their own regulators. We'll get to that in a few minutes. But the point is that, like, I don't really like the classification thing. However, I will take it as a bit of a win that there is a classification that puts Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, Doge, and XRP in the same category. And that's a bit of a win for us. It's a really big win. We'll come back to that in a few minutes. But the second thing that's in this document that was really good, if you scroll down and you get yourself to the section where they talk about mining, and I don't remember what page it's on, but it's pretty deep in this thing. Interpretation regarding protocol mining activities. Blah, 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 blah. Digital commodity does not constitute financial instruments, blah, blah, blah. It's not a security. Okay, so Texitcoin is probably not a security. Great. Solo or self-mining, got it. Mining pool, there we go. So this is a section here that talks about mining pools. Okay, well, what does it say about mining pools? Well, it says the pool operator, is really not doing much more than just ministerial things, remains administrative or ministerial, so protocol pool mining, G2G, it's good to go. And so we looked at those two things and we're like, well, can this whole thing go away now? And the answer was no. We reached out to the TSB. Did you get the memo? And they say, yeah, we got the memo. We're good. What do you mean you're good? It says right there that protocol mining is not a security, and the ministerial or administrative things that we do to keep the lights on and pay the bills is not enough to be considered, essential efforts of someone else. Can this thing go away? No, it can't. Why not? Till somebody gives us a court order that says to remove the cease and desist, we're happy where we are. Okay. So we got this stuff in March and we're like, what's the problem? We don't know what the problem is. Well, we're beginning to understand what the problem is. And that's happened because of the depositions that Jay and Chris went through and the interview. I think it's called an interview that happened the other day. Okay, pause for a moment. And I want to talk about that because when February 11th happened, I was in Hong Kong. And a lot of people, our troll websites are out there saying Bobby fled the country, did what he did back in 2013. He got on a plane and he ran away from his problems. Okay. But as it was, I was not in the country when this went down, which was very strange. It was like, if you wanted to bust me, why not wait till tomorrow when I get home and you can arrest me at the airport? Didn't happen. This happened when I was in Hong Kong. And I looked at it and I said, I guess I'm not going back to Texas now, being under a cease and desist and whatnot. And so it happened when I was in Hong Kong. And I was like, well, that's very strange. Okay, well, I need to keep running the business. And the attorneys have said that literally the most important thing we've got is this SEC thing. But even more important than that is running your business, whether that means outside of Texas or internationally or whatever. You got to keep the lights on. You got to keep paying us. And you got to run the business in order to do that. And so you got to find a way to keep going because this thing is not going to be cheap. You know, what's the budget? 5 million, 10 million, 20 million dollars? I don't know. We'll find out. Where are we right now? I think about 3. So it came down when I was in Hong Kong. I looked at it and I said, well, I got work to do. I've got a project to run, and I'm not going to do it from Texas where I'm going to get accused of violating my cease and desist. So I'll just stay over here for a little while. And that has served me incredibly well. I know it's a little sad we don't get to hang out with Bobby, but our team is doing a very good job holding down the fort. My wife's doing a wonderful job holding our personal life together. We just got to connect for the last 3-4 weeks, which was great. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But I needed time. And Corey put together a really great video with, what's happening right now. Hey, watch this. And at the end, it says, time always tells the truth. And it's so true. We just need time. We need time to set the record straight. We need time to clean up these loose ends. We need time to prove what we are and what we aren't. We need time to prove that we've done what we said we were going to do. I mean, these regulators are looking at this and they're saying, slam dunk, pyramid, Ponzi, fraud, shut them down. They'll be gone in a minute. Well, they had it wrong. And so, they're not going to just believe us. We got to prove it. And we need time to do that. So I was over here and I said, I'm just going to wait over here. I've got a project to run. I've got work to do. I can't be distracted with constant barrage of legal stuff and the sadness that comes along with that as everyone else is going through it. So I need to be over here. I need to be doing my thing. People will say what they're going to say, but it's been very productive. We'll talk about that later this week. But as part of that, I got to sit down this past Thursday with the SEC and not have a deposition. Why? Because it was a voluntary interview. Why? Because it didn't happen in the US. It was outside of their jurisdiction. We met, we came together as, colleagues in London, and I was voluntarily there. I was sworn in, so it was a sworn voluntary interview. But I didn't have to answer any question I didn't want to answer. And I was able to leave anytime I wanted, which I didn't. I answered every question, except for a couple that the lawyers said, don't answer that. Don't answer that one. And they were goofy questions that were really not related to the basic, elements of our case. I won't tell you what, but a couple things. Didn't answer. But it was an interview. And so the strategy that I have with kind of hanging back outside of their jurisdiction, I think has worked very, very well. So say what you want about it, but I think that it's served us and our goals and our purpose, and I'm happy with it. You'll see why later this week, because there's a lot more going on. But cut to the chase, Bobby. It's been an hour. You're babbling on. What's the point? The point is that I went into this interview. They spend the first hour of it with the basics. What is your name? Is your name Robert Joseph Gray? Have you gone by any other names? So we go through all that stuff. And then, they get into like the questions. And through their questions, you kind of get a feel for what they really want to know. And we've gotten a little bit of a hint about this because Jay and Chris went through their depositions before I went into this one. And there were a couple really, really, really obvious themes in those depositions. And the obvious themes were, is this a fraud? Man, I'm trying to think of what the obvious themes were off the top of my head now. I'm trying to lay the groundwork for the things that we covered in my deposition. I should have written them down. But anyway, so my question going into the deposition was, is this some sort of smoke screen? Do they really have an agenda over here, but they're asking us questions over here to kind of like throw us off the scent? No, they have a very, kind of narrow path that they've got to follow in order to, follow through on the question of whether or not this is or isn't a security. And they're going to ask questions that will like light that path for them. And I'll come up with the two things as we go here. Man, what were the two things? I'll come back to that. So that was really my question. My question was, is this, can we make reasonable conclusions about the things that they care about based on the questions? Oh, okay. So one question was, what's with the supercars, bro? Where'd the money go? Was the money misused? That was a big question. Misuse of funds, because that's typical of what they see in everything else. And the other one, I remember it now, is the path to 16. These are the things that they're focused on. Misuse of funds and market manipulation, we'll call it. Path to 16, market manipulation. And I said, well, that's great. That's easy. Why? Well, first of all, I don't know why we're talking about these things when we still haven't set the record straight on whether or not this thing is actually a security in the first place. So why would the SEC be involved in a question about misuse of funds or market manipulation if they first haven't, kind of firmed up their jurisdiction in the case? It's like, yeah, nice try, but this is what we're gonna have to deal with. Well, that's easy because number one, when we talk about funds, we had public meetings. I even put that out to a vote. We had 1,400 people show up for the call. People voted. 93% of them said, okay, we've got liquidity here and here and here and here. What's next? Go ahead, throw it into some real estate, commercial, and residential. Great. All that stuff's listed. I put it all in my name against, the advice of people that are familiar with asset protection. I said, no. Someday people are going to look at this thing. Did Bobby hide all these assets and shell companies and offshore so he could disappear this money? Nope. I'm just going to put it in my name. It's all public record. It's all right there. So we're going to buy all these cars. We're going to put a bunch of money into cars. These cars are going to be rolling advertisements out there for us on the street. We're going to give them away to our top performers in these leases. It's all disclosed. It's all 100% public and disclosed. And the same thing goes then for the market manipulation stuff, the path to 16. Look, we're doing price discovery. It's out there on a public market. I don't control it. I've never sold any Texitcoin for our own personal benefit. We have to do these things. The exchanges require them. We disclose all this stuff with our community. They're like, well, where do you disclose it? I'm like, have you heard of YouTube? YouTube is, I think, the #1 website in the entire world. Every one of our calls gets published to YouTube. It's out there for everyone, written, transcribed, the whole thing. And so those are really easy things. Are you sure they're not just trying to trick us? No, that's what they care about. Oh, all right. Well, then we got this. Let's go. Let's go into this interview. And so I sat down with them and went through the basic questions and then went through, some more technical questions. And we did cover these two things, but really the conversation was about two other things. And these are actually a really big deal. And they're a really big deal because you got to use words and language that they understand. This crypto blockchain stuff, it's highly technical. There are very few people on planet Earth that understand how it really works. I'm not one of them. I've learned a lot about it in just the last 2-3 weeks as I've been rebuilding all of these systems with, rotating out the developers we've had for 2 years and replacing everything that they've ever touched. Learned a lot, but I still don't know everything. I know a lot more than the SEC does. But highly technical things. And so we went through the questions and we really ended up spending a lot of time on two things. And it wasn't where's the money and it wasn't path to 16. In fact, those were pretty easy. I think that we've cleared up the question about the use of funds and the path to 16 and our price discovery. I think we're good to go there. But there were two things there that they focused on that were a little bit, we knew that they were coming. We knew that these were going to be hot topics. but we spent a lot more time on them, and I understand why now. Number one, decentralized. Let's go back to the question of fraud. Is this thing a fraud? No. I took the money in, he built the mine, paid the commissions, promoted the coin. Not a fraud. Well, they're looking a little bit more closely. That's all well and good, but let's take a look at your website. Number one, it says mined exclusively in Texas. Are there any people mining this outside of Texas? Well, yeah, there are. Well, who and where? Well, we've got some rangers that have miners outside of Texas, home miners outside of Texas. And there's even a guy, I think, in New Zealand that has a miner that's mining outside of the US. So do you think that that's an untrue statement? Well, I don't know. When did you get it? You got it off the website in June 2024 from a historical website picture. So back then, yeah, it was mined exclusively in Texas. Okay, well, where was it mined? Well, when we first started, I had it in my garage. Would you consider in your garage to be decentralized? Good question. I mean, how do you define decentralized? Well, we don't know. How do you define decentralized? Well, I don't think that there's a central authority. You know, if I sign up for well, we'll get into that in a second. But anyway, that was a really big thing for them. It says on the website, mined exclusively in Texas. Is it mined exclusively in Texas? Well, today it's not. We've changed the rules. We've talked about this. We've talked about, you know, the evolution of this, and it's published to websites and videos and YouTube and all that stuff. So I got to go through the website with a fine-tooth comb and make sure it doesn't say anywhere on there exclusively mined in Texas. If it does, I got to put an asterisk or change it to the footnote at the bottom that says, well, yeah, we've got a couple people outside of, you know, Texas mining this thing for you know, geopolitical diversity. We need some diversification. We shouldn't put all of our eggs in one grid's basket. We should have some outside. It makes sense. We've talked about it. We made a decision together. But if it says mined exclusively in Texas on the website, then it's not true. So, okay. All right. Good point. Point taken. Let's clean it up. I didn't think about that. I thought not being a fraud was just, you know, doing what I said I was going to do. But they're looking at every line item and saying, is it mined exclusively in Texas? No, we got you. Guys, take it easy. When you screenshot of the website, it was. I'll go back through the website. A phone call would have been nice. Hey, is this thing changed? Update your website, bro. Okay. All right. Got it. So that was a really big thing for them because they want me to define decentralized. What does decentralized mean to you? I said, well, let's take a look at it. When we went live on our first exchange, May of 2024, Dex Trade, we went live and we took it down. We went live again early June. We had to give them a copy of our code. They set up a node over there. And we had to lock it down so that only they were able to set up a node. We didn't want, you know, other people setting up nodes and stealing our coins. And so the very fact that they've got a node that's validating blocks somewhere else in the world, we don't know where it is, it makes it decentralized. There's no one single node, one single point of failure. Where the miners are and where the participants are and who's got a wallet and all this stuff, this is all part of the decentralized question. You know, everybody that participates in a peer-to-peer network makes it decentralized. The more people participate, the more people running wallets that are running nodes. I mean, our desktop PC software ran a full node. And so when those nodes were running, it pulled a full copy of the blockchain. And if our systems went down, and this actually did happen, you know, everything went down, we had to do a restore. And it was a computer that was running the desktop PC wallet that had a full copy of the blockchain on there. We were able to restore and bring the network back up. That happened at the beginning of June 2024, after we were down for like 3 weeks. And so that's what makes it decentralized. All these participants, whether they're an exchange running a node or a person running a desktop wallet, that's what makes it decentralized. The network continues running. If one thing goes down, there are multiple other things out there that keep it alive. That's how I define decentralized. And they go, all right, they kind of scratch it off their list there. And that's a really important thing. What does decentralized mean? They don't define it. The SEC has never defined decentralized. How do you define decentralized? Well, we can all agree about two things. Number one, in the beginning, I said the whole reason we're building this mine, we want 35 sites across the state. We want to have them, big and broad and distributed so that if one goes down, the network keeps running. And we want to have this big blockchain because the world is not going to build on our chain if it's running on a laptop in my sister's basement. I think I said folding chair in there as well. Laptop, folding chair, sister's basement, it's very centralized. Mine built all over the state or maybe all over the world, much more decentralized. Nodes running at all these different exchanges, much more decentralized. And so that's an important distinction. And they're looking at that. We thought they were looking at cars, misuse of funds, market manipulation, and they are. But decentralized is a really important thing for them. Why? Because it's in their guidance. Certain types of decentralized networks. Are you decentralized? If you start out on a laptop in your sister's basement on a folding chair, not very decentralized now, is it? No, it's not. But like every other project, we have to start somewhere. And as we get bigger and as our security increases and as our knowledge and confidence in our systems increases, we're able to become more decentralized. So you can certainly understand that there's a shift, a kind of a tipping point in there somewhere. Okay. Number two, permissionless. And now that I told you what the two things are, I want to remind you why. Because they don't understand this stuff. I'm not saying that they're not intelligent. I'm not saying that they're not smart. I'm not saying they don't have experience. I'm saying that this is highly technical stuff. And they've pinpointed a couple words that they understand, that they use a particular way, that has given them kind of at least a beginning starting point on good versus bad, good and evil, not a security. Those two things, decentralized and permissionless. Now, permissionless is kind of a big deal because you and Bobby have gotten together for the last 115 weeks and talked about our permissioned blockchain. So when the SEC goes, what did you say? Did you say permission? That's interesting because we said that permissionless was good, permission bad. Centralized. Decentralized, good. Centralized, bad. So centralized and permissioned, bad. Decentralized, permissionless, good. So this is really eye-opening. This is just from last Thursday. And I said, guys, it's really interesting that you brought that up because we've just made a major change in our system in the last few days. And they said, oh. And I said, yeah. I said, if you go to our website, you put your mouse over resources and you go scroll down to build on TXC, you will see that Texitcoin Core is now 100% open source. You can click on the link. It takes you over to GitHub. And you can see the full commit history of all the changes we've ever made to our core code and the blockchain. They went, really? I said, yeah. Did you get approval from your community to do this? I said, no. It was always our plan for this thing to be completely transparent. It was always the plan. We weren't going to keep it secret forever. We just didn't think that we had the technical savviness in our security to make it public. We play a cat and mouse game with these hackers. It works like that with everything. You get a new update. Oh, it's time to update. Update. Why? Somebody found a new security hole. We patched it and there's an update. Update. We play this cat and mouse game with the hackers that are trying to steal our coins from outside of our pool. Well, we've gotten to a point where we're comfortable enough about our protocol and our security that we made our code public. And not only did we make it public, but this is a big thing, guys. I don't know if you're paying attention, but this is a really big deal. Not only is it 100% open source now, but It is completely permissionless. Permission key removed. Remember that security feature that I told you that we had to build in back in June of 2024 when we were handing copies of the code out to the exchanges? We had to give them a key. The key was required for them to spin up a node and have it connect to our network. Back then, you could get a copy of our code, but it wouldn't handshake with the other nodes in the network unless it had a key that matched something that was predefined by our main systems. If it didn't have a recognized key, it couldn't handshake, couldn't start to get a copy of the blockchain, couldn't do anything. That's gone now. That's completely gone now. And I did that 2 days before I went into the conversation in London. The key that made Texitcoin a permission network is gone. Anyone, anywhere can now run a node and join the network. Mining rewards still route exclusively to community-issued addresses. So banks, nation states, and unlimited capital actors can't slurp them up. The more you participate, the more hash power you accumulate. This happened this past week. And it happened because of a bunch of things. Number one, AI. Say what you want about it. It gave us the tools and the resources that we need to scan everything, to double check it, to lock it down, to build out this website, to share the code. It gave us a lot, guys. Say what you want about it. I'm a pretty big fan. Number two, we got rid of the old development team. That brought in a breath of fresh air for us to take a look at all this stuff. Why aren't we making the code public? What's the holdup? Why can't we do it? Are we ready to release this thing? Let's go, man. I got a meeting on Thursday. I'd love to go in there and tell them, no. Permissionless. 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 Now, does permissionless have anything whatsoever to do with mining rewards getting paid out to people that go through the pool's front door? No, it doesn't. Not in their documentation and not in ours. But the network has always been permissionless. Pause. Huh? Didn't you always say it was permissioned? I did, but that's because I misunderstood what that term really means. Now, that's what I said in the conversation on Thursday, and that's truly what I believe today. What's the difference? I never looked into this security stuff. I never had attorneys to sit me down and be like, well, it has to be permissionless. Permissionless means X, Y, and Z. It has to be decentralized, and decentralized means X, Y, and Z. I never had that conversation. So I've been using my understanding of permissioned to mean that the mining rewards go exclusively to our pool. That's been a virtue for us. I said, guys, our network's permissioned. The mines payouts go exclusively to people that come through the pool. But that's not really what permissioned means. Anybody can download a wallet. Anybody can send. Anybody can receive. Anybody can view the full blockchain history. That's how they define permissionless. Our network has always been permissionless. Really, really important point, guys. Very important. And a really important clarification for us. So we stop saying the wrong word. What does permission mean? PayPal is permissioned. You want to get PayPal from somebody? You got to set up an account. Fill out their form, wait for it to do a credit check, decide if they like you or not. Oh, sorry, your account's frozen. The money's ours now. Damn it. That's permissioned. Crypto in general is permissionless. Anybody can download a wallet. Anybody can send. Anybody can receive. Anybody can transfer. Anybody can view the blockchain, the mempool. And now, as of this past week, anybody can view the code and anybody can spin up a node. You want to know how to spin up a node? We'll deal more with this week. But take a look at this. I've gone this far. There's a button here that says spin up a node. That's actually not the button that I was looking for. That just shows you the code. The button is right here. Spin up a TXC node from scratch. Guided in minutes. Check this thing out. I built this. What do you think I've been doing? I've been working on our tech. Version 0.25.2. Here's everything you need to start a node. Everything. Instructions, day-to-day commands, service control, blah, blah, blah. All of it is right here. You want to set up a node? You want to have it handshake our network? It's all right here. Why does it matter? Because we are 100% permissionless. Change your language, change the brochures, change the website, change it all, because Texitcoin is 100% permissionless. We've been like 99.9% permissionless for a long time. We've been misusing the word permission because the way they define it and the way we define it is totally different. And the definition of these things matters. Why? Because they look at it and they go, look, we're regulators, are here. Our job is to protect investors. We don't know who's doing what. We can't believe everything we see. We got to enforce some stuff. What do we know? Permissionless, good. Decentralized, good. Permissioned, centralized, let's take a look. So they take a look and they come to find out that we're not as centralized as they thought. Yeah, we've got Bobby Gray and he's important, but he's not the only guy in town. In fact, you look at the numbers, our market turned not because of anything Bobby was doing. I didn't change anything in September, October. Kept doing my Thursday calls and Tuesday calls and blah, blah. Well, what happened? Something outside of my control happened. And we've always been permissionless based on their definition. Now we're 100% permissionless because you don't need a key to spin up a node and the code is completely public. Now, does private code mean permission? No. What does permission mean? I don't know. Let's define it. They've never defined it either. But based on their understanding of the word, they had a case. They had a reason to dig. Use of funds, market manipulation, decentralized, centralized, permissioned. 1, 2, 3, 4. We went through the process. We're still going through the process. The case is not over. In fact, it's probably far from over. But we've learned a lot. And one of the things that I've done is I put together a page that's linked at the bottom of our legal page, texitcoin.org/legal. And it talks about why the SEC is involved in this whole thing in any way whatsoever, not just Texitcoin, but crypto in general. And I did a deep dive. And I would like you to go through this page if you're curious and bored. But I'd like you to go through this and try to understand it the way that I understand it now. And like I said at the beginning of the call, I'm much more sympathetic to what we're going through and their perspective today than I was. Before I was angry, before I was like, they got it all wrong. But I look at it now from their perspective and I go, yeah, we've said permission. How many times on our calls? Hundreds of times we said permissioned. That's an important word to them. And we had it wrong. Permission to them and permission to us meant two totally different things. But now we can look them in the eye and each other in the eye and say, we're 100% permissionless. The only thing is that our mining rewards go exclusively to our pool. Now, do you need permission to sign up for our mining pool? No. You go to the MineTXT website back before February 11th, you fill out the form, you put in your payment, you're in. No gatekeepers, nobody's stopping you. Bobby doesn't get to look at every prospective miner and say, yeah, you can, but you can't. We had one rule. The one rule was no more than 10% foreign ownership. That's it. We never got to 10%. Even the people that we didn't like, that we graduated, we didn't kick out of the mine. The mine was totally permissionless. You got to go through the front door. You want to spin up a node for Ethereum right now? Any idea what that costs? Way more than $995. Permissionless. The mining's permissionless. The code's permissionless. Spinning up a node's permissionless. The wallets, the block explorer, the mempool, the whole thing's permissionless. And it has always been that way. Now that the code is public and you can spin up a node, the final two things for permissionless, as far as everybody defines it, are done. They look at that word. They pay attention to that word. They say, permissioned? We're interested. Centralized, we're interested. The SEC didn't show up for cryptocurrency. They don't get involved with currency. They showed up for the ICO. They became very interested in crypto when companies started using crypto to raise money. I do a deep dive on this page talking about the early cases. There were only a couple of them, and they were, pyramid schemes, Ponzi schemes, that kind of stuff. But they didn't have a general crypto position. They were only targeting fraud and unregistered shares. 2016, 2017 is when it got wild. When companies started doing the ICOs, the initial coin offering. Sounds a whole lot like an IPO, right? Well, an IPO is a security. An ICO is like a security in the crypto world. That's when they showed up. And ever since then, they've been kind of backing away from the crypto conversation. But we've seen this big enforcement wave because the fundraising never stopped. It rebranded yield farms, governance tokens, staking as a service, lending protocols. All these things kept them around. Then all of a sudden, things are getting some clarification. The SEC is dropping their cases. Most of the cases were always about fraud. Ours isn't. But it is about fundraising. And anytime people are raising money, the SEC is interested. We've brought together a lot of money, guys. The number's right there on our website. We've brought together, I think it's there again. We've brought together a lot of people, a lot of money. We've put up a lot of billboards and advertisements. There's a lot of reason for them to be interested. Ooh, they're doing it again. No, we didn't do an ICO. What are you guys doing? It's a community currency. It's different. The SEC truly believes that what we've done is a security. Maybe not Texitcoin, but what we've done is a security. Our job is to show them that it's a highly technical thing, that's not a real cut and dry case. There's no fraud. We've got good people. We haven't ripped anybody off. And then we've got a whole lot of active participation and no expectations of profits that cause this thing to be not a slam dunk security case for them. And so they've got a real case, and they've got a real reason to be interested in what we've done. And what we've done is now water under the bridges in the past. But those are the things that they've focused on. Those are the things that we got into quite deeply in my interview and with the depositions that they're concerned about. And I think those concerns are fair. I think that if I was a third-party regulator and I didn't tune into 115 weeks of Zoom calls, I would have the same questions. Heck, we got a whole troll army out there now that accuses us of all that stuff anyway. It's interesting to see that a lot of their evidence is from troll websites. But be that as it may, it's a cleansing process. Why did the code get published? Why did the key get removed? Because of the SEC? No, we were always intending to do that. But because of what we've been going through over the last couple of months, we've had the time to finish dotting the I's and crossing the T's, cleaning up a lot of loose ends. There's still more to do. I'm not done yet. But it's given us an opportunity to step back, see what's really going on, make some important fundamental changes that give us clarity and a clear path for the future. We're going to talk about that more this week. So tune in, because there are a lot of great things happening right now. And what we're going through right now has caused us to identify exactly what needs to be changed, what we need to do different, so that we can not have this type of challenge in the future, or at least seriously decrease the likelihood of it now that we know. The fear, the uncertainty, the doubt, it slows us down. It causes us to question ourselves. It causes us to go, I don't know if it's a security. I mean, we've never talked to anybody. Well, now we've talked to the best, and we've sat down with the regulators. We know exactly what they're looking at now. They want to know if it's centralized. They want to know if it's permission. They want to know if the market's been manipulated. They want to know where the money went. Let's do all those things the right way and get excited about our very bright future. This is day one of our marathon week. We got a lot to talk about. Tomorrow we're going to talk about tech. We've got some Iskander stuff to talk about, mission and kind of vision stuff to talk about. We'll get more into those things later this week. Let's take a couple minutes for questions. I may not answer every question, guys, because remember, a lot of this stuff is still, things I need to worry about with attorney-client privilege. And the SEC asked us not to say some stuff. They're like, look, we know what you guys do. You got this transparency thing. We respect it. Just please be respectful about us as well. I said, of course. I went in there. I'm like, so you guys are my enemies. We're not your enemies. We're here to keep, investors safe. Okay. Got it. Great. Friends, SEC. Yes. All good. Is there supposed to be sound? Was there no sound on that video? No, that's such a shame. Has there been any sound since then? Team is ready. Thank you, Craig. Craig, I'm glad to hear that you're ready. I would like to say that I'm ready. It's been 4 months and 4 days. We're almost ready. I just ask you to withhold judgment until I come back to you and I say, okay, we're ready. And we're not there yet. We're very close. But the question about readiness is also about progress. Now, I want you to look at the progress that we've made and ask yourself as to whether or not we're just kicking the can down the street here, or if we're really, really making big fundamental improvements across the board. I mean, I was telling you guys about using the word ecosystem. We have a white paper now. We not only have a white paper, but we have a whole page on our website dedicated to the white paper. Here it is. Download it. Enjoy it. Looks just like the Bitcoin white paper. Take a look. It's there. How long have people been asking us about the white paper? Here it is. Check it out. Big fundamental improvements and changes. Okay, question. Thank you for the updates. I'm just reconnected to what's happening here. But what's the best way forward if I don't have more money to invest, but have one TXC mine? That's all you need. That's all you need. You don't need more money. I told you I'd never ask you for more money. One-time fee. Just tune in the next couple days. Hang tight. You didn't miss anything. This is the beginning. Think about Bitcoin. Bitcoin went from, white paper in 2008, first block in January of 2009, to Bitcoin Pizza Day, which was in 2010. It was a year and a half until they had their first commercial transaction. 10,000 Bitcoin for 2 large pizzas. And it wasn't even a direct spend. It wasn't like a merchant had a sticker on the cash register that said spend Bitcoin here. It was a guy on a forum that got somebody else to pay for the pizza for him. It wasn't even a real transaction. We're in the very, very, very beginning of our adventure. Hang tight. Don't worry about the money stuff. If you've got a seat on the rocket, you're good to go. Okay. Yes, they can indict a ham sandwich. That is the joke. The grand jury could indict a ham sandwich. That's exactly it. Prosecutor could get a grand jury to indict a ham sandwich. There you go. Thank you. You can't see my screen. Sorry, Sophie. I know what the problem is. You sold people on mining seats and claimed everyone would get rich when TXC reached $18. Well, your number is wrong, first of all, and I don't think everyone get rich claim was ever made. Within 2 days, ISK start. Look, I'm ready to do it now. I think all the sales are in. It's Monday. I'll check with our team and we'll start distributing coins. Mine primarily in Texas. Yeah, look, guys, fraud is fraud. And my attorney looked at it and he goes, it's not a big deal. So you got a couple people mining outside of Texas. It's insubstantial. I said, yeah, but we still want to be truthful. If it's not exclusively mine in Texas, then let's say that. Yeah, but it's immaterial. No, it's material. And I told you guys are supposed to be watching my back and holding me accountable. Go through the website. If you see a statement on there that is not 100% true, send a support ticket in and let's get it fixed. Okay? We want to keep our hands clean. I don't think we have clean hands today. I think they're pretty clean, but they're not spotless. This decentralized and permissionless thing, it's a big deal to them. It's a big deal to me too. We've been using words and language that we thought meant a particular thing. They think it means something different. We got to reconcile that stuff. We have to reconcile that stuff, because if we're using the wrong terms and the wrong language, and they're not undereducated, but they just they have to put stuff into baskets. It's regulation at scale. Permission, centralized, we look. Decentralized, permissionless, we give it a pass. We have to make it easy for these guys to look at our stuff and go, yeah, okay, they're good across the board. But take a look at the website. If you see materially untrue things there, or even partially untrue, let me know. Let's get them fixed. Why does I feel these two subjects are going to come up in Congress in the next couple of months? Well, canary in the coal mine here, maybe. Does permissionless mean anyone can mine TXC now without purchasing hash power? No. Actually, yes. And this was a question that came up, Coach Bud, in the interview, because you can mine it now. You just don't get the reward. You can go right now over to the mining pool and you can register, and you can mine Litecoin, Dogecoin, Iskander, Texitcoin, and even Zero Chill. What's Zero Chill? Wouldn't you like to know? But you won't get the Texitcoin, you won't get the Zero Chill, and you won't get the Iskander coin. That only goes to a hard-coded address in our chain. Now, we have a lot to talk about. I got probably thousands of home miners that have been waiting to be sent out to people so that you can plug it in, start mining, and get your Doge and your Litecoin. That's ready right now. We'll talk about that more tomorrow night. That on my list to talk about tomorrow night. Mine, LTC, and Doge. If you've got more than 700 mega hash, more than 2100 mega hash, we've got a DG1 home, or we've got a mini Doge 3 for you. Set it up on a timer. Maybe you get free electricity at night. Find an electricity promo that gives you free electricity. Set it up to run at night, and you get free Litecoin Doge. If you can get your electric bill down to zero, where you got free electricity or bulk electricity, you get a couple bucks of Litecoin Doge, and you help make our network stronger. We'll talk more about that this week. Anyone can mine it now, but the reward is always paid out exclusively to the pool. We'll go through some of the tech stuff more tomorrow because it's kind of cool. All right. So we don't know who's mining it now, but we know that we're getting all the rewards. False. You are not Bitcoin. Nobody likes you. Texitcoin is not decentralized, and it is definitely not permissioned. Thanks, Rick. There was sound on the video. With things changing, car wrapping adverts need to change. Interesting. Yeah, we'll have to take a look at that stuff. There was sound in the video. Okay. Sound was good. Sound. There was sound. Okay. All right. Those aren't questions. Sound and video, all good. Okay, sound. Okay. Everyone's so excited about letting me know their sound. Thanks for the clarity. This should reduce the FUD with the community, and sweet to get the TXC caught back up. Yes, TXC is chugging out again. Sound was on. We need this coin to pop. Well, that's really the next challenge. The next challenge is, okay, it's been 4 months, 4 days, got your head out of your butt. What are we going to do to get the coin to pop? Come back to that later this week. Looking forward to this coin blowing up. Still optimistic for the future. Of course I am. Guys, here's what's funny about the price now. We have assets still. We had a plan to take our resources and keep them safe. The plan worked. We're able to deal with this stuff with the best attorneys in the world because our plan worked. And there's a lot more. Remember, guys, what did we say? It was going to cost $1 million to get this thing, really popping. We've always had a no influencer policy. We've got plenty of resources to follow through on our strategies to get this thing to do what we hope it will do. We're going to get a link for the recording. We will share the link in the group in Telegram in just a few minutes. You got our support. Appreciate the update. Thanks, Maddie. That's because you're transparent. Well, I do the best I can, Bobby. So I like the fact that the Texas hearing could lay groundwork for other agencies looking into the project. When is the Texas hearing date? It's August 17th to 20th. Great work. Thanks. You're welcome, Dave. Answer live. Done. A lot of questions here. Reason XRP is considered securities because they allowed it to be traded on the futures. It's not. It's not a security. That's the whole thing. They said it's a digital commodity. It's weird. Is it possible that we could get the value of Texitcoin back to $1 later in the future? By the way, it is good to know everything came out great and the universe worked everything in your favor. Yeah, guys, look, it's ongoing. Let's not let our heads get too big. Let's not say stupid things. These guys are still investigating. But again, as we learn more, we're able to improve. And I'm looking at it and saying, look, guys, I defined it this way. You define it that way. Tell me what you want changed. Tell me what you want changed. I've changed it. Are we good now? Are you happy? But let's work together. Let's not the Texas thing was really over the top. Really over the top. I'm in Texas. This is my home state, man. This is a pro-Texas project. So that's a different issue we'll deal with. Thanks for all the updates. Looking forward to pressing forward. Is there anything we can do to help? Just stay in contact. Just stay tuned in. That's the biggest thing I need from you guys right now, because there's a lot of good stuff. We didn't get into any of it tonight. A lot of good stuff happening, and that'll become more abundantly clear to you this week. And if you can't make it for all the calls, all good. They're going to be recorded, and we'll have lots of snippets and updates for you afterwards. Jen, did they express any concern with the language in the brochure about secession? Why, yes, they did. Why, yes, they did. That is actually probably what we're going to talk about on Thursday, the mission. Why, yes, they did. We'll talk about that later this week. You don't get the Doge either. Yes, you do. You get the Doge and the Litecoin if you mine at home. You don't get the Zero Chill. You have to update your settings. You got to go and register your address so that the payout works correctly, because it has changed, and we'll get more into that. Can't wait to obtain a home miner. Yeah, man, let's get them going. And look, if we have to change the rules to be more decentralized, let's change the rules. And we can have the majority of our network in Texas, all good, and then we can have some home miners all over the world. How's that sound? Let's vote on it. Let's put it to a vote. Will you send miners outside of Texas? I host one here in Atlanta. Let's vote. Look, I make a lot of decisions for us, but I don't make all of them. If I feel uncomfortable about changing something that's fundamental, or like a core component of our system, a key key part of our strategy, we got to talk about it. And let's vote. Can we see if 500 hash and get a home miner? No, it cannot. We need a little bit more. We'll figure out how to do that soon. I spent $5,000 on TXE. How do I get a refund since it's crashed and the SEC is involved? You don't. How many watts do you need to run the home miner? I don't know. It's not a lot. Let's see. DG home 2.1 watts. The DG1 runs at 620 watts. It runs on, I think, a standard 110 outlet. 110, 120. And then mini Doge 3. Mini Doge 3 runs at 260. And what that means is that, you can run at 700 or 800 mega hash for 260 watts, or you can run at 2100 mega hash for 620 watts. So about double the power, but 3 times the coin output. So the DG Home 2.1 is much more efficient. You'd rather get your way up to 2100 and run more efficiently. Cool, I can mine now. Yes. Great job, Bobby. Appreciate the work. Thank you for the update. You're welcome. Mini Doge, our new mini Doges. How can I get a mini Doge? Look, we're going to go through all that. Communication is going to get a big upgrade this week. Let's roll, says David. Yes. So what's next? I never built the biz. It's all good, man. Just stay tuned in the next couple of weeks. Okay. A lot's going to come down the pike. Thanks for fighting for Texit and us. It's what I do. Gracias for the updates. You're welcome. Continue with your lesson of humility and honesty, and we'll be fine. Yeah. Strong advice. Keep up seeing their positive intent, and you graduate this initiation. The Doge collects on the account, but it does not pay out. You sure you have it registered properly? You 100% about that? Talk to tech, because it's supposed to pay out the Doge. Who helps with the home miners? I have one not online yet. Let's get to the bottom of that this week. Home miners is a big, big deal now. Home miners, and like I said, maybe we allow home miners to happen now outside of Texas. Guys, we had always planned for this. Small, figure things out. We grow, we get bigger, we're able to make changes. What are the fundamental changes? Mining is still exclusively to the mining pool. That will always be the case. What's home miner? Stay tuned. We'll find out this week. If you've got more than 700 or 800 mega hash, you can have your mining hardware at home. Originally, the goal was for everybody to mine at home. I think that still may be the goal. I've got a really, really great idea. Really great idea. Home miners. We were supposed to have a custom 300 mega hash. I got a really great idea. I vote yes. I know my hash. Haha. Yes. Could you explain the difference? How we get the mine, the Doge coin? Could you re-explain how do we get to mine the mini Doge? So look, we'll talk more about tech this week, but if you go to the pool, if you want to register your miner, you got to go through this registration process. Before you start merge mining, you click on register LTC Doge, enter your mining wallet. So you got your Litecoin payout address and then your Doge payout address, and then you put a security check in here. So once you do this, it'll give you your username and password to mine. And then that's the information you plug into your miner. So you put the pool information in, and then you put in your username and password. And then that way your Doge will get paid out as well. It's really important that you go through this process or you don't get the Doge. Now, I've never tested it, so I'm assuming it works, but let's test it this week. We got tech support coming back online to help you guys get this thing working, because I want it to work for you. I'd love for you to have more money in your pocket because of your experience with Texitcoin. What's the difference between having a seat and mining at home? The mining at home is unrelated to your seat. The mining at home helps build more stability for our network, and it gives you a Litecoin Doge reward. Now in the past, it didn't. It was only Litecoin, and our network wasn't functioning very well. So now it gives you good Litecoin and good Doge. You can see how much we're mining. I mean, guys, we're almost at the point now where our mining is profitable. That's really, really important. If you take a look at our merge mining pool, you can see in the last 30 days, we've mined 78 blocks of Doge. Doge blocks are worth about $1,000 each. That's $78,000 worth of Doge in addition to the 32 blocks of Litecoin. So this is a really, really big and valuable thing, and we're so close to having Conroe with more mining power. Again, a little bit different from the original plan. We wanted 35 sites. We've now got a bunch at one site, but we still are planning on expanding outside of that. Call this leadership. This is called leadership. Thanks, Bob. You're welcome. I have a big one. It runs 110 red plug. I'm not sure what you're talking about, but let's figure it out this week. Roland says, yeah, but we don't want China mining all of our coins either. Remember, they don't get the coins. One of my ideas, and I don't know yet if it's a good idea, but one of my ideas, and you can see that I've been sitting on it for a while now, freescriptpool.com. What if we open up our pool and let anybody mine our 5 merge mine coins: Litecoin, Doge, Iskander, Texit, and Zero Chill? They don't get the Iskander, Texit, and Zero Chill. It makes our pool bigger. It makes our Texitcoin mining hash power bigger, but they don't get the block reward. So if you want to mine our coin and make our network strong, thanks. But there ain't no upside in it for you, except for the fact that we don't charge a fee on the Litecoin and Doge. Every other pool out there charges 1, 2, 3%. So if we don't charge a fee, we might be the biggest Litecoin Doge pool in the world. How much is a home miner, and are they easy to set up? Well, hopefully you earn it through the affiliate program, and it's pretty easy to set up. You mentioned a cutoff connecting Iskander and TXC alongside June 11th. Can you go in and explain? You mentioned a cutoff day connecting Iskander and TXC. Yeah, I think we talked about that last Tuesday on the call. And I don't know about cutoffs. Here's what I can tell you. Our goal is to not be exclusive. You know, one of the things about marketing and FOMO and get in before it's too late and this and that and the other thing. Like we got to watch out for that kind of language. So we want to keep this thing open and available as much as we can, right? We want people to get in. We want them to take their time to make good decisions. We don't want to rush them with, language that makes it seem like they're going to miss the rocket if they don't, make a fast decision. We'll use promotions and incentives to drive action, but not fear. And so don't worry about cutoffs. There are going to be some cutoffs, but don't worry about them. Worry first about making good decisions if you're thinking about bringing more money out of your pocket. I bought hash from several people. Can this hash be added together to qualify for the home mining? Sure can. About 14,000. Holy crap. That's a lot of hash. Yes, connect with somebody in customer service and they will help you consolidate that. You mentioned continued assets. Roughly, what is the amount remaining of the 150 million investment? I'm not going to answer that question, Kerry, right now. Is it possible to still buy hash power? Today, no, but it will be back soon enough. Keep tuned in this week. Where can we find the link to a recorded call? I shared in the Telegram group, and I'm also working on getting all this stuff on the Texitcoin website or the MineTXC website. Call recording, not a problem. Home miner, but unplugged it. Yeah, well, let's get the home miner plugged back in, but go through the setup steps first. And then let's have a real evaluation as to whether or not it's worth it making you any money. Can we get an update on fares using Texitcoin? That's not for tonight's call, but tune in later this week and we will talk more about that probably on Wednesday. Yeah, I think we're going to cover tech tomorrow, Iskander on Tuesday, and then so Monday will be tech, Tuesday will be Iskander. We'll cover phase 2, phase 3 on Wednesday, and then mission on Thursday. How's that sound? I have a seat, but nothing else. How can I make money? Stay tuned in. Guys, I can't get into everything tonight. Stay tuned in. And thanks. Where do we get the order, the Doge miners from? I don't know yet, but we'll have an email going out about that soon. I haven't changed anything in my settings since signing up. Do I need to change anything regarding mining rewards? I don't think so. If it's still going out to your cold storage wallet, you should be fine. So are you the only person profitable in any of these tokens that you mine? No, remember the money from, it's Rick. Rick's the guy that said we're going to 18. I have the big miner and it runs on 110. Yeah, it should be fine. In Play Store, not available TXE wallet. Yes. Interesting. So, first of all, we're working on an upgrade for the TXE wallet. The one we have now was our first one. It got us through a lot. A lot of people use it, become very comfortable and familiar with it, but it's in need of a desperate upgrade. I'd also like to see it have Iskander wallet functions as well. In fact, I have built a new wallet, and it is wallet dot. We've got the Texitcoin wallet here, and this works great. But we also got the wallet.honest.money one, and I'm really a big fan of this one because this one does Texitcoin, Iskander, Zero Chill, and Ethereum. Binance Base Polygon. It works great. Incidentally, these are not my recovery words, but I like this wallet. I set it up personally. I'm the only one that has access to it. I feel like it's safe. So, if you want to use a web wallet, great. If not, wait for the new wallet to be released through the Google Play Store, and it will have all kinds of exciting stuff. Gage says July 10th is the cutoff. I'm not in charge over at Iskander, guys. I'm the chairman of the board. I've got lots of mining power. I've got lots of sway, but I don't make all the decisions for Iskander. That stuff you'll have to talk with your committee about, and we can go over on Tuesday. Why is the web wallet the recommended best wallet now in the App Store TXC wallet secondary? The app is showing 13 cents, also has been for a while. Yeah, I think the web wallet or the app wallet has an old price stuck in there. So there's a blockchain mint app. Really curious if I should send all my TXC to a web wallet and get off the app. No, the app is totally fine. But The problem that I have with the apps is that they're gate kept through the Play Store and through the Apple Store. And what that means is that they can pull the thing off the phone entirely anytime. When you use the words, when you have your seed phrase, you can take that anywhere. Okay, so if you have a WIF, W-I-F, or a seed phrase, that's really your full control. And so as long as you have that, and you have it backed up somewhere, you're okay, and you can import that over to the web wallet. I like the web wallet. I don't use the mobile app. But again, we'll get more into tech tomorrow. Hi, Bobby. You're doing a great job. Thank you. Don't worry about the haters. We're with you. Keep this project alive. I have 1,400 hash and live in Las Vegas. Would I qualify? And how do I get a home miner? Like I said, I'm all about expanding the base of that now. I know we've got people all over the country and all over the world that are well qualified. The more we have outside of Texas, the better. But we're talking about a fundamental change. If you guys are okay with the change, I'm okay with the change. This is a community project. Sometimes we make these decisions together, but always it's in the interest of our success. So let's take a closer look at that question. Maybe I'll send out an email with a vote to all 58,000 miners, and we can decide together. Outside Texas question mark. Okay. You can do a search for Honest Money Bobby Gray for this date on this YouTube and see the recording of tonight. Link isn't needed. Thanks, Kenny, for getting it out there. Appreciate that. Yes, 16, my bad, LOL. When we start our journey with Iskander. When we start our journey with Iskander journey is beginning now. Iskander USDC commissions. That's a good question. You know, we paid out a lot of old commissions for Iskander, but we haven't paid out any commissions yet for the new comp plan that started May 9th or 10th. My rewards disappeared from the cold wallet. How can I get them back? They didn't disappear from the cold wallet. They just don't show in your back office anymore, and we're working on getting them back right now. That's it for questions. Thank you very much for tuning in to this almost 2-hour Monday night call. We're kicking off a marathon week, guys. There's a lot to talk about. It's all good. We're getting more information. The cloud that's been over us for the last couple of months is starting to break up. We're seeing some rays of sunshine coming through, and our bright future is still in front of us. Thanks so much. I'm Bobby Graham, the guy that started this project that has become almost my entire life, and I love every part of it. Thanks for tuning in, and I will talk to you guys again tomorrow.